Now, we all remember the classic hit suspense horror film slasher movie called Scream. And in the movie Scream, we heard people scream. We heard them lose their minds. We saw Drew Barrymore last in the movie for less than 5 minutes, even though she was on the poster. She was only in the movie for like the first 10 minutes of the film. And saw her get wiped out. Took us back to the days of Psycho. So that brought a whole new type of suspense horror drama to the table. Now, if you haven't seen the original Scream, shame on you, because this spoiler shouldn't be a spoiler alert. The killers was Cindy's boyfriend and his psycho best friend. Now, with that being said, yes, they're filming a part 5. But in the original Scream script, Dewey, Wes Craven had Dewey as the surprise killer of the film, which was a shock to many. Dewey was the one who pulled off all the murders. And it went back to Dewey being teased by the police department, by high school students, their parents, his sisters. No one respected Dewey. So this was his way of striking back. Yeah. So when they came by and they made the original draft, by making his name was actually Dylan in the movie script. And in the original script, they were going to find out that his name wasn't even Dewey. Dewey was like a nickname they called him from like Huey and Dewey, the two imbeciles. So that was the angle they were taking. Now, when you look at it from all of its angles, everything implied, everything that was suggested, I see why they changed the script, because they wanted to present something that the public would not see coming. So they did a survey. They sat down and said, based on this script, who do you think the killer would be? 78% said Dewey. From reading the script, the initial one sheet rather, that breaks down the characters, who they were, what the movie was about, who was the killer, would it be the boyfriend, this, everyone had selected Dewey, whose name was Dylan at the time. It was Dewey / Dylan. So when that changed, the entire script changed. They went to do rewrites to make Dylan not the villain of the movie. But now they're saying, well, how do we go from flipping this? Because the way the script was written, the boyfriend was going to look like the obvious choice. Dewey was to look like the non-obvious choice. He's too much of a nitwit to pull it off. But there was a movie that came out called The Usual Suspects, where they've done this act with Kevin Spacey. So The Usual Suspect used that act, that performance. So that script was out there. So changing it was a necessity to say, we're going to make the boyfriend look like the obvious bad guy. Then we're going to do something to disprove it could have been him. The whole time. And the so-called experts are going to still think it's Dewey because he looks like the guy who it could never be. So they're going to think it's him. And the ultimate twist was making it a dual homicide. Two guys working together to pull off the homicide. Once the movie became a hit, they were going to incorporate Dewey being the mastermind behind setting all of this up, recruiting these guys to do it, and protecting them from the police. That was going to be in Scream 2. But the Wayans brothers decided they wanted to get involved in this thing. And they kind of took that script, the original script, and made, what was that, the first Scary Movie. So in the second Fallout, Dewey was supposed to be the one to set everything up and be the mastermind. Dewey gets killed in part 2. Once his scheme is revealed of why he had this disdain for Cindy and the mom. He lusted for Cindy, he had a crush on her, but the mom was very rude, and this was going to go back to Cindy's parents and how the mom put strain on their family and the father and all this other different stuff that was going to come up. And on top of that, in Scream 3, the newscaster was going to team up with Colin to get him out of jail, who's been out of jail for a long time. They were going to team up with Colin, and they were going to be the dual threat in the final Scream trilogy. None of this happened. None of these things happened. Debbie Salt, the mom, was supposed to appear in the very last one, as she teamed up with a heartbroken Gail, whatever her name is, or whatever her name was, Courtney Cox's character. I can't think of it, but Debbie Salt was going to show up in the very final installment. Was not supposed to be in the sequel. The sequel was supposed to be going back to making Dewey the mastermind behind all of it. But when Scary Movie came out, that kind of defeated the purpose. Right, but that Scream 3 script wouldn't have worked because there you're involving three people. You're going to have Debbie Salt, you're going to have Colin involved, and you're going to have the news reporter lady, all three of them being Ghostface. It's just, then you'll see Debbie Salt is like started this cult of punishing wicked people in the town, and there's so many other people who are Ghostface that you find at the end of part 3 that it doesn't die with her. Like there's this cult religion that she has where everyone's wearing Ghostface masks at the end. Like she sends a videotape out and everyone's seeing the videotape and then everyone's putting on Ghostface masks. They felt that that would influence a lot of real life crimes, so they changed that script immediately. That, well, someone might take into action. Oh, okay. So, yeah, well, if you'd have had that, the original Scream series would have played out a lot differently. I think having 3 serial killers did not make sense. Having Debbie Salt show up at the end made a lot more sense than how they did the third one. Having some guy who claimed that his father, some character that you didn't know, that had really no connection to any of it. Having Debbie Salt come in the second installment and having her die out the way she did worked for the time being, but then again, they did the same thing they did in the first one, making Dewey the obvious choice, but then not the choice. Well, the majority of the people who saw the movie gave it thumbs up. They all went out and saw all of them. It came out on my birthday, I believe. Oh. So when the film came out, many people felt the way they did because they wanted to make it such a huge environment. Like they wanted a whole genre of Ghostface merchandising. So taking it from a cult religion, a cult film, and making it just a regular slasher film hurt it for resale value moving forward down the line. They made it like a cheap rendition, because then you had knockoff movies coming because of it. Well, they thought of the KKK movement, and they was like, see, we don't want the ghost face mask to be looked at like, you know, you put on one of those masks. So that's why the script was changed. Oh, we like Tiger Woods. We wear red on championship day. That's what we do. So that's what the original script was for Scream. Say what they want about Harvey. Harvey put the money down, baby. So anyway, don't forget to like the page if you're new here. Hopefully the new guys got involved. Hit the like button. It's time for the bowl, baby. LFG. Let's go. Brady time. 12 time. It's winning time.